Hello, my subscriblings, and Happy New Year! This is the first video of 2025. That's so crazy to think about. If you guys were watching my channel last year, you may remember that in January of 2024, I did a video talking about the art goals that I wanted to work on throughout the year. And now since it's January 2025, it's time to check in and see if I met those goals. The best way I know how to track my progress is to do a redrawing of the picture that I did for last year's video. So let's get into it. Before we get started and talking about what I learned this year through art, I want to first cover the goals that I set for myself at the beginning of last year. So last year, my art goals were to learn backgrounds, learn anatomy, work on dynamic poses, draw 10 minutes a day, and to stylize bodies. Some of these I feel like I accomplished, whereas others I definitely did not. So as far as background goes, that was not something that I got to this year. I didn't get to focus on backgrounds as much as I wanted to. Through Art Fight, I feel like I definitely got to practice a bit more, but I wouldn't say that I learned backgrounds in 2024. Now, anatomy, I put more of a focus on. I tried doing studies, I tried doing a few gesture drawings, I tried learning proportions, so I would say successfully that I learned anatomy. I definitely worked on dynamic poses. I feel like a lot of my characters now feel more alive and less stiff. Drawing 10 minutes a day did not happen. There were days where I just really did not feel like drawing, and it would actually be a few days where I would go without drawing just because I couldn't motivate myself to do so. That one's a no. But then stylized bodies, I think, is a yes. I took the time to sit down and learn how I wanted to draw bodies. Now, there's still progress, but I feel more comfortable with where I've gotten over the past year with stylizing bodies. Now let's get more in depth on what I actually learned this year. One of the things that I learned this year was to break the body down into simple shapes. To start my anatomy practice, that's what I did. I looked up a reference photo, I drew the body as close as I could, and then I took a piece of parchment paper, put it over the top, and then tried breaking down every section that I saw into a simple shape. And this helped me to see where things should go, where certain body parts lined up, the proportions of them, and all in all, it helped with stylizing my bodies as well. Another thing that I learned in 2024 that really helped me in my art journey was learning to sketch loosely. This was a big help because I was finding that I was spending way too much time on my sketches trying to get parts to look absolutely perfect, when in reality, they don't need to be. If you really think about it, drawings are mainly for you. If you post it somewhere, people are gonna spend at most maybe like a few seconds looking at your drawing. They're not going to nitpick all of the little details. At least most people won't. And that mindset really helped with my drawing. I was like, you know what? No one's gonna notice that this bit's a little off. I may notice, but it's okay because I was able to get my drawing done, and overall, I'm satisfied with it. This is a skill that I'm probably going to have to continue to teach myself, but I'm hoping throughout the year of 2025, I'm going to remember to keep all of my sketches loose and to not nitpick right off the bat. Because if I do, I'm not going to get anything done. I'm not going to get any art done. I'm not going to want to get art done. The next thing I learned relates to me stylizing my bodies. Now, the way that I did that was by finding media that I enjoy and finding artistic styles that I love and admire and studying those specifically. What I had been doing was studying realistic anatomy when realism is not what I'm going for. It occurred to me that if I want a cartoonish style, I need to be studying cartoons. So I took some of my favorite shows, such as The Owl House and Steven Universe and Adventure Time, and I did some studies of how they do anatomy, and that helped so much. And it makes sense for me, because the way that I started drawing was by looking at my favorite cartoon characters and drawing them exactly as I saw them. Now, obviously they didn't look exactly the same, but I was drawing what I was seeing based on the cartoon characters that I loved. So why not do that for bodies now? So if you're trying to stylize bodies or even faces, highly recommend looking at artists and media that you already enjoy and admire and just doing a study. Through doing this, I also realized that it's okay to change the way that you draw something, because at the beginning of last year's video where I talked about my art goals, I mentioned how I was really satisfied with how I had gotten my faces to look. And by the end of this year, that changed drastically. I realized that the way that I was doing noses was not fitting the rest of my style. So through doing studies, I found that actually I want to change the way that I do noses. And that's okay. It's okay to change things up. You don't have to stick to a specific style. Draw what you feel comfortable with in the moment. One thing that I wasn't really expecting to learn this year, but ended up learning, was more tools from Procreate. That was not an intention of mine, but through my practices and through watching other artists, I actually found a few helpful tools for me with how I feel comfortable drawing. And some of the tools in Procreate that really helped me this year was learning about the clipping mask, for one, which I had kind of learned before, but I hadn't really used it much, but I used it a lot this year. And going with that, also learning Alpha Lock. I am someone who gets really frustrated coloring and shading, so trying to stay within the lines sometimes just is way too much for me, so Alpha Lock really helps calm my nerves there. Mentioning shading again, I despise shading. It is so infuriating to me. So picking colors to figure out how I want to shade, so annoying. On the days where I want to shade a picture but don't really have the mental capacity to think too much about colors, using the multiply tool in the layers to get a darker shade of the colors that you've already used, phenomenal. Helped so much. And I actually used it in this piece with Solus, as you saw, where I colored him completely, then I duplicated the color layer, and because he was mainly in shadow, I ended up just erasing the highlights. Huge help. One more tool that I found helpful this year, I actually didn't start using until more towards the end of the year, and that was the liquefy tool. It wasn't a super big help in my drawing process or drawing journey. It was more of just a fun additive that I added to drawings, mainly in the backgrounds. Now that I've talked about what I learned this year, let's take a look at the two drawings side by side to really see the comparison. Taking a look at these two side by side really does show the progress that I made over the year. And I gotta say, I'm so proud of myself for the progress that I made. I think this is the most art progress I have made in the past few years. And I do believe it is because I set these goals and I tried to stick with them and I was intentional about my improvement. I love Solus's pose a lot more in the redraw because it feels more real and feels more alive. I have a bad habit of wanting to show a character's face fully, and I don't usually like to cover the face. But I watched a video where someone mentioned that for poses, it is okay to cover like parts of the body because that's how it would look in real life. If someone was about to splash you and you didn't want to get splashed, your hand would automatically kind of cover your face to protect you. So Solus's face is covered. And also the colors. I feel like I was able to get a better spectrum of colors in this one. The lighting as well. Lighting is not something that I have been too particular about or have been too focused on, but in this one, I really wanted to show like a sunny beach day with the light bouncing off of the water and bouncing off of the characters. There's just a lot here that I am so proud of. Now, since this is a drawing video for 2025, it's time to discuss the goals that I want to set for this year. My goals for this year start with a goal that I didn't get to in 2024. One of my top priorities this year is going to be improving how I do backgrounds, and I want to specifically focus on perspective, such as 1-point and 2-point perspectives. I also want to put a little more effort and focus on improving my color theory usage. And I'm also going to put on here to continue to improve my anatomy with stylized bodies. Other things that I would like to do for art this year is I want to do quote unquote daily doodles and studies. I'm not going to try and do every single day because I think that's just unrealistic for me at this time. So I'm going to try and do it most of the days this year. And then just as a fun project that I would like to do is I want to make a character portfolio for Solus, Andrew, and Serenita, who were in this drawing. They are my babies. They are some of my oldest OCs. They've gone through so many different changes, and they are a story that I want to be told, and I would eventually like to write their story. But as a first step, I think it would be fun to create a character portfolio for them so that I can get a better idea of who their characters are and how they interact with each other. So hopefully I'll be able to do that this year. Now all we have to do is wait and see. But if you guys have any art goals, I would love to know what your art goals are down in the comments. And if you would like to join me on this journey, feel free to like and subscribe so that we can kind of go on this art journey together. My intentions are to post more frequently this year, so hopefully you'll get to see my progress as it happens, instead of having to wait a whole year to see the progress. I hope that you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I hope that I'll see you in the next video. See ya! But this year, since I didn't get to